Hello and welcome. Today I've got for you a very popular laptop of 2024. And although it is now 2025, I believe some of the 2024 laptops still offer significant value and should not be overlooked. Let's take a look at this heavy hitter and fan favorite from Lenovo, the Legion 7i. But first, a disclaimer. The Legion 7i was loaned to me by Lenovo to check out and bring to my audience. However, all opinions in this video will be wholly my own and none have been privy to editorial review of the content therein. And please click that like button, click the subscribe button, and turn on the notifications by pressing the bell icon so that you're the first to know when there's new content available here. Let's begin. We'll start with a quick scan of the specs. The Lenovo Legion 7i features a very popular setup in the gaming laptop marketplace. Powered by the Intel Core i9-14900HX with 24 cores and 32 threads, it's got lots of horsepower for everything you can throw at it. And to keep that many cores fed, there's 32 gigabytes of the fast 5600 MHz DDR5 RAM on board. Even though the Legion 7i is quite slim, it manages to provide SODIMM slots for upgradable RAM. Another key feature, and one that Lenovo's been doing quite well with recently, is the display. Lenovo's PureSight 16-inch QHD Plus resolution display with 100% DCI-P3 coverage and 240Hz refresh rate is very enjoyable. And in typical Lenovo fashion, it's rounded out with a two-strike keyboard with 1.5mm of key travel and RGB backlighting. A 99 watt-hour battery keeps the lights on, and there is USB Type-C power delivery of up to 140 watts. An RTX 4070 with 8 gigs of VRAM provides the frame rate engine to push all those pixels to that gorgeous 500 nits bright display. Around rear of the laptop, we'll start with the port situation here. So this Lenovo Legion 7i is very well equipped in terms of ports. On the rear of the device here, we've got a full-size HDMI 2.1 port that's wired in directly to that RTX 4070 on board the device here. So you can hook up to all of your VRR-enabled external displays and benefit from things like G-Sync and variable refresh rates. Also, to round it out on the rear end here, we've got a power adapter, which is the slim tip from Lenovo at 300 watts for this particular model. Over on the right, beginning from the right over to the left, we've got a USB Type-A port, 5 gigabits per second. We've got a webcam toggle to turn the webcam on or off as a privacy shutter. We've got a USB Type-C port, again of the 5 gigabits per second variety. And we've got finally a full-size SD card here, so content creators rejoice. And over on the left, housing most of the ports on this device here, we've got a USB Type-A port, another one of the 5 gigabits per second variety, followed by a singular 10 gigabits per second USB port here that's Type-C, and this one also offers up to 140 watts of power delivery here for charging, followed by a Thunderbolt 4 port since we've got an Intel CPU on board, and finally a microphone combination headphone jack. Alright, and I want to just say a few words here about the overall build quality of this Legion device. I really like the way that the Legions are built. If you remember from my channel in the previous year, in 2023 and also into 2024, I reviewed several Lenovo Legion laptops, including the Legion Slim 5, the Legion 9i, which was just a spectacular device. That was my favorite laptop of 2023/2024, featuring the RTX 4090, vapor chamber cooling, carbon fiber top lid, and just all the bells and whistles. And it's had a sealed liquid coolant loop inside the actual laptop, and it just worked. It was just an amazing device to see, and it was much thinner and lighter than any of these other comparable devices. But that's it here. Lenovo has done a really great job. You know, the actual build quality here is solid. We've got this beautiful silver metallic trim around the rim of this device, which adds a little bit of flair and some contrast to the otherwise white body. This white here actually works quite well. If you look at, versus the table that I'm using here, I've got a white surface table here. This is more matte. This is, I would say, somewhere between semi-gloss. If you're familiar with, paper or print media, this looks like a, coated sheet of paper that you would see for paper. It's very nice. It's contrasty. You don't see multiple shades of white here, which would have looked awful. And of course, in true Lenovo fashion, we've got this lid here. We've got one hand opening, and on the bottom panel here, we've got some raised rubberized feet here. These are very solid, by the way, and great for, gripping onto your desk, but also elevating this sufficiently so we can draw air through this intake on the bottom panel here, and exhausting of course, the air is done across the back here. On this particular model, the Legion 7i for 2024, there's no exhaust on the sides here. So right side or even the left side for that matter, all of the hot air is exhausted actually out the back. I prefer this design, and this was a similar design that we had with the Legion 9i. However, with the Legion 9i, the keyboard was shifted a little bit forward because it needed all of that space here for the actual thermal material and that closed circuit loop for the water cooling that was built into that laptop. But I think with Legion here, and they've got some very nice touches here. They're keeping the branding to a minimal. It's not too over gamery designed, unlike some of the MSIs or you know, God forbid, some of the ASUS ROG laptops. You walk into a room with one of those, certainly people are going to know that you are a gamer first and, you know, perhaps a computer user second. So I like the fact that these laptops are nondescript. They can easily fit into pretty much every setting. You know, they're very hefty. This one is just under 5 pounds, I believe 4.94 pounds is the weight of this laptop. So you can easily one-handed, you know, handle this thing. You can carry this around with you into the classroom all day. But unfortunately, the battery life being something else altogether is where, you know, Intel was basically asleep at the wheel, and we have not had a giant leap of faith or a giant leap in terms of the innovation around battery technology. We're just now starting to see slimmer phones due to silicon carbide batteries. That also is in its infancy, so I'm not sure what that will hold for the future. But of course, if you're looking for that long battery life and longevity, and you know, gaming is certainly not a priority for you, then perhaps a Windows PC isn't for you. But if you're looking to game, if you're looking to produce media, to consume media, and to be an all-around machine that can do anything and everything pretty much, then the Legions are something you should be looking at here. So I'm impressed with the actual build quality here. I think Legion's got a great job. The aesthetic is very nice. This white impressed me more than I thought it would. You certainly should see this in a store setting or physically in your presence, and you'll actually love the white color as much as I have. So well done, Lenovo. I think overall build quality gets an A from me. I don't really have much to complain about. The slip is great. You know, the size, it is actually quite a slim laptop, you know, despite what it looks like. And overall, the weight is, I think, just right. So right under 5 pounds is a great place to be in terms of weight distribution for this laptop. But despite that, they've managed to pack a 4070 in here, which is sufficient amounts of power for most mainstream users and gamers. If you are a 4080 or a 4090 enthusiast, you'll know that this is not the right choice of laptop for you. So I think overall, that's all I have to say about the build quality here. And a quick cold boot here to show off the backlight brightness and the uniformity of this display panel here. So as we boot up the device, we'll see that the Lenovo Legion pops up on screen here. Now these tests are becoming less relevant with modern LCD and mini LED displays because the uniformity is just that much better. Nonetheless, some of the very low end laptops still suffer from a little bit of backlight bleed here, but nothing certainly to, you know, complain about too much here. Next, we'll take a look at the brightness levels here. We'll turn this brightness all the way down. So this is without any backlight turned on here. And then in 10% increments, we'll go all the way up to full brightness here. You can see here that the uniformity of the display is actually not as even as it should be. This is a display that I've seen on many other laptops, or rather an effect of these displays on many other laptops where uniformity drops off considerably after 50% brightness or below 50% brightness. And that seems to be the case here, particularly around 30% brightness. So keep it around 40 to 50 and you'll be able to do just fine with the Legion 7i for 2024. And finally, we'll take a look at the hinge test here. We'll open it up. We can do a one-hand open. There's a little bit of a wobble here with the lid. That's to be expected, but the hinge is pretty sturdy here. Once it's in position, there doesn't seem to be any issues with this. Now, being the Lenovo Legion fashion, this display can fold all the way back 180 degrees and lay flat on the table if that's something that you should desire or should be concerned about. Now, that said, with 500 nits, the display does get kind of eye-searingly bright, so be sure when you're playing indoors or in a well-lit environment that you use the display somewhere around, you know, 50 to 70% if you want to have not too much eye strain. And the hinge is very sturdy. You can see here at even very low angles it holds quite well until you're quite at the very low end of the spectrum, and then it just kind of drops shut here. But even though it's I think a very well built and sturdy hinge. And of course, no amount of display or YouTube video showing off the actual screen here can be as worthy as the real thing. But I have to say that this is one of the most beautiful screens that I've seen. And Lenovo has been doing this screens quite well. So go and check this out in person at a Best Buy or a Micro Center, what have you, near a local store near you. And you'll be very impressed with the Legion 7i's PureSight display. This is a test of the built-in 1080p Full HD camera on the Legion 7i for 2024, featuring the Intel 14900HX, the last of the Raptor Lake generation before we moved on to the newer Lunar Lake, Arrow Lake, and future architectures from Intel here. Let me know what you think of the built-in FHD 1080p camera quality in the comments below, as well as the audio from the built-in microphones in this laptop. And of course, being that this is a gaming laptop and it's got the True Strike keyboard here from Lenovo, it's got 1.5 millimeters of key travel and it's called per key, and it's got per key RGB lighting here for the backlight. So we'll demonstrate a few different functionalities here with the keyboard itself, and particularly with the backlighting. I think it's very, very well done. Despite being the white keys on the white keyboard deck, I think this worked quite well. Lenovo has really hit this out of the ballpark. I was a little bit skeptical having seen the white color, thinking that it's going to be just going to be a muddy white color, and it's not going to be very nice to look at, particularly when you have the white keys overlaid on top of the white deck. It's just going to wash out, it's going to be unreadable, and the RGB is just going to be a complete crapshoot here. But that's absolutely not the case. So we can see here, as if we press the FN key, we get a few different key shortcut highlights. This is very nice to see that Lenovo has added this in. So for example, we can see here that holding down the FN key, we're going to use the up arrow key to adjust the brightness on the keyboard backlight, and pressing down allows us to turn the backlight down. Of course, all the way down turns it off completely. And if we turn it back on, we can see here that our RGB key backlight is on. As you can see here, all the different effects. It's got ripple effect currently turned on. You can also use FN plus R, which is to toggle the refresh rate of the display. So we'll toggle between 60 Hertz, and it's going to toggle, if we press again, to the full 240 Hertz of this display. Of course, when you unplug the battery, this will automatically toggle down to 60 Hertz, but it's nice to know that you have a key combination here to do this manually if you so choose. And as you can see here, if you hold down FN, you see all of the other keys that are highlighted. So we have FNQ, which allows us to cycle through the performance mode. So here we've got turbo, we've got quiet mode, and finally we've got the balance mode here. In this case, I've got Lenovo Vantage with the Lenovo Legion AI engine turned on as well. So it's going to be automatically tuning for our gameplay versus our productivity workloads here. And over time, it will learn how we want to use this laptop, so it can manage power levels to both the CPU, the GPU, the display, and all of those things that are part of this particular laptop. So that said, we also have a function U, and as you can see here, function U is going to allow us to turn the backlight on and off, which is the lighting on the actual port selector there. So it's a nice feature to see that. I have not seen that on any other model, even from Lenovo, in fact. So that's a pretty cool thing to see here. And as you can see, we can cycle through the different colors. Holding down function and pressing the spacebar key will allow us to toggle through the different keyboard backlight profiles, which can of course be set by the Lenovo Legion software. And as you can see here, currently I've got ripple effect turned on onto my the first profile here. So overall, a very nice keyboard. The typing experience is fantastic. We'll give you a short key typing test now so you can hear what the keyboard sounds like. And if it's not loud enough, we'll boost the volume of the keyboard typing test about 10 decibels or so in post-production. And finally, to say a brief word here about this trackpad here. So this is like a multi-touch gesture trackpad on the Lenovo Legion 7i. This is a very smooth glass surface. It's one panel here. It's not interrupted by any of the Lenovo style buttons that we generally see on the ThinkPads or some of the older IdeaPad models. It's nice to see here that it's just going to be a flat surface. It handles the smooth tracking quite well. It's really, really nice to actually track and use. And it's very, very slippery. So, the fingers glide very, very easily here. I've not not had any issues here with multi-touch gestures or otherwise performing any kind of mouse actions on this panel. Of course, with true Lenovo fashion, you can also use FN plus the F10 key, which will basically disable your trackpad. So if you're in a hot gaming session, you're not going to get some pop-up or some alt tab out of Windows where you may lose your performance or you may lose that fragging session that you're currently in. So nice of Lenovo to see that they've provided a nice and decent, and I would say much more usable trackpad. In the last couple of years, we've really come a long way in terms of the essentials that make up a gaming laptop, and Lenovo seems to be doing this really well here. Their trackpads are just a breeze to use. There's really nothing really to complain about, and the same thing goes for their keyboards. So the inputs, very well done, Lenovo. In an earlier segment of this video, I stated that this device, the Legion 7i for 2024, contains a full-sized SD card slot reader. In this section, we'll show you how to insert the SD card here. So we'll insert it this way into the slot with face up, and we'll see here that there's quite a ways that the card is left extending out from the laptop. So be careful when you're traveling with this. Make sure you don't leave the SD card into this thing. Next, we'll show you the transfer speeds copying from the actual SD card reader and an SD card onto the laptop itself. All right, we'll take a few files here off of the SD card that we've just loaded into the laptop here. We'll hit copy and over to our other folder. We'll copy it over onto our local system to the internal C drive of this particular laptop. And you can see here that the UHS 1 speeds, we're getting about 90 megabytes per second. It is not the UHS 2 faster speed standard for the SD card, but nonetheless, it's nice to see that a full-size SD card is included here for copying over your data. Of course, most professionals and most content creators will have some sort of a USB attached storage / card reader setup that they carry with them, particularly for compact flash cards or more professional level cards. But nonetheless, it is very handy in a pinch to be able to grab this laptop, throw in your SD card, and for most intents and purposes, copy all of your media quickly so you can get to work right away. So as you can see here that it sustains about 90 megabytes per second, which is the theoretical maximum for the UHS 1 standard, and it copies consistently without jumping down too much here. We're copying several gigabytes of data here, and it seems to be working just fine. So overall, a very good thing here that Lenovo has provided us. Despite being fewer USB-A ports, I would prefer to have a variety of ports rather than just a concentration on a singular type of port, leaving out other types of connections and inputs for users who like to multitask and truly use these as multi-purpose machines. All right, and just to say a few words here about the battery life, gaming laptops have never exactly been battery champs, and as we can see here that for the past decade or so, Intel's rested on its laurels, and we've seen iterative changes to CPUs across the spectrum here. So for the last 10 years, we've seen iterative CPUs, which over year have offered minimal performance boost, slight clock speed increases, and there just has not really been a focus on new architecture or renewed power efficiency for that matter. That said, the Legion 7i here is powered by a 99 watt-hour battery. That is the legal limit for what can be carried onto an airplane. That means you're going to get the maximum battery size on offer here. Of course, you've got 300 watt power brick here to keep everything charged. And as for battery life itself, you're going to see anywhere between 3 to 4, perhaps 4.5 hours, depending on how aggressive you are with the Windows tuning settings, battery saver mode, turning the brightness down, disabling Bluetooth or Wi-Fi when not necessary, and so on and so on. Of course, that said, on the left-hand side, using the USB Type-C port, that's 10 gigabits per second. You can also use USB Type-C charging and power delivery up to 140 watts in a pinch. So if you have a USB Type-C charger that you use perhaps for all of your peripherals, tablets, phones, smartwatch, etc., you can definitely get by with just that charger and having this laptop with you throughout the day. Taking a look at some synthetic benchmarks here as far as the performance is concerned, we see that the 14900HX paints a very similar picture to what we saw with the initial launch of the 13900HX in early 2023. And that said here, this is the Raptor Lake refresh CPUs. Not much of a difference between the original Raptor Lake that released in 2023. But nonetheless here, there's been a slight bump up in clock speeds, and overall performance seems to be very similar CPU wise. I've also done here some synthetic benchmarks here for the GPU, which is the RTX 4070 inside my Legion 7i here. And we'll see here that the performance again is very similar to what we saw at launch from the 4070 in 2023. And despite having been lots of driver updates and the original fiasco with the 1 volt issue where it prevented much more power beyond 100 watts being able to be pushed to this GPU, that is still present. You'll see a significant delta with the 4070 and the 4080 this generation. However, as we can see here, that the 4070 still performs admirably. If you temper your expectations and understand that you're going to get about 100 watts of GPU power here for gaming purposes, you're going to get some pretty respectable frame rates here. Of course, toggle on the DLSS frame generation techniques that were provided as part of this generation, and you'll get a very, very playable and enjoyable gaming experience with the RTX 4070 in this Legion 7i for 2024. And if we take a look at the gaming performance here from the RTX 4070 and the Legion 7i, we see here that any game that we're going to throw at it between the last couple of years here at the native resolution of 2560 by 1600 will net you a result of 60 FPS plus. Now, if you need a little bit of help, you can always enable DLSS and enable frame generation, and you'll get that extra boost to make sure that your gameplay experience is well above 60 and you have a total overall gaming experience. And taking a look at the software here, Lenovo Vantage is still one of the better softwares for controlling your laptop amongst the gaming laptop manufacturers. That's not saying much, however, but let's get into some of the good features here. So first and foremost, you've got the modes up front and center. You've got performance mode, balance, and quiet mode. And of course, there's a custom mode available here that allows much more control, including fan speeds, as well as the power mode that Windows is toggled as well. And of course, here in good Lenovo fashion, you've got some keyboards here. So function plus Q will allow you a quick toggle between the different performance modes. It'll cycle through performance, balance, and quiet modes. And of course, that will change depending on whether you're on AC power or if you're running on the battery power. And here in custom mode, you can see here we can adjust the fan speeds, or we can also adjust the balance profile performance modes here in Windows as well. I'm not quite sure how they actually tie together, but nonetheless, it's there. And of course, we can see here that in the performance setting, we can actually go and tweak lots of little sliders for different power figures, for CTDPs, etc., etc. So it gives you lots of control over what you can play with in terms of the GPU and the CPU power and the overall performance. And in Lenovo's 3rd generation now, we've got here the Lenovo AI engine. So if you enable that by default, this isn't actually a bad way to play. If you leave it on balance mode, toggle the Lenovo AI engine on, it will do its best to cycle through the different workflows here. And as you proceed, it's going to monitor and improve over time of what the gaming performance that you're going to get out of this laptop here. So that's it. We've also got modes here to overclock the GPU. We've also got modes here for the different hybrid working graphics. That's the NVIDIA Advanced. That's for NVIDIA Advanced Optimus 2. Oof, what a mouthful to say. And of course, we've got here some RGB spectrum and controls here for the keyboard backlighting. You've got up to 6 different profiles here that you can customize. And at the bottom there, once you've selected a profile, you can adjust all the different effects. There's quite a few of them built into the keyboard here. You can play around them to your heart's content and customize just the way you like your RGB for your keyboard and for your Lenovo laptop as well. In addition, there's also lots of different options here to upgrade your different drivers, do a system update, set up some macro keys, and of course adjust how the battery charging is handled to preserve and conserve overall battery life if you play with AC power most of the time. So lots of different functionality here on board. You can also enable always on USB charging for charging your mobile devices when you're on the go and just want to have your laptop settled on the desk there. In addition, you've got audio control here. Different microphone and microphone volumes can also be disabled. We've got eye care on board here for display to make sure you get the best of eye care for your eyes, particularly in low light situations and if you work on your laptop quite a bit. And of course, you can adjust the on-screen display here and the function bindings here for the macro keys. So nice to see that Lenovo has given us a full rounded setting in terms of what we can control here through Lenovo Vantage. And there we see the on-screen display is now being popped up. Alright, and now for the segment that most of you have been waiting for. So seeing how this is the Legion 7i, and I'm sure the question that undoubtedly most of you want to know is how does it game? Well, as you can see here, I'm playing Dragon's Dogma 2, and this is no slouch in terms of system requirements and being a very heavy hitter in terms of running on your actual system. But you can see here that I'm running close to 60 FPS at ultra settings. Of course, DLSS is on, and we've got frame generation enabled as well. But the fact of the matter is that if you have that tech available in the RTX 4000 generation, why would you not be making use of those technologies to get the best frame rates possible? You've paid for all of that hardware, so you want all of the software to go with it as well. Whoops, don't die there, buddy. I don't know where you're falling off to. You can see here that this is a very smooth gameplay experience, and I've had tons and tons of fun with this game, playing this on my desktop, also on my laptop as well, and also lots of other computers. So you can see here it's a pretty fun game. Whoops, let's move back and let these guys handle the heavy hitting. So as you can see here, overall a pretty good game experience. We'll just pop in here and show you the different system settings here. So if you head over to display, whoops, not display, excuse me for a moment. We'll go at 1600p resolution. We've got DLSS super resolution set to balance. Of course, if we set this to any other setting, we're going to have to restart, but we're not going to do that at the moment. We've got frame generation turned on as well, and overall the actual settings here are set to high, which is probably the highest I believe you can go. Can you go higher than high? No. Yeah, high, and 16 by 16 is the highest texture quality. So you can see here that we've got low, medium, and high, and in case of the textures, we can go all the way up to low or 3 gigabytes. So we've got the highest texture RAM usage, the highest texture filtering usage, the high for all of these different qualities here. And I believe we do have ray tracing turned off. Yes, because ray tracing is very taxing. You're not going to get a very good gameplay experience with ray tracing turned on a 4070. You'll need at least a mobile 4080, if not a 4090, to be able to run this game with RTSS, with DLSS turned on, frame generation plus ray tracing if you want to have a good gameplay experience. But overall, the game looks fantastic. The colors are visually stunning. The display is gorgeous, as I've mentioned. This pure sight 16-inch display from Lenovo is just a joy to look at, and for gaming with 240 Hz refresh rate, you're not going to be skipping a beat in terms of the visual fidelity and what you're getting on the screen here with your gameplay experience. So I think overall, if you're looking to get this as a gaming machine, hey, it's got the chops. Legion 7i is one of the most popular, and for a reason. It is a standout almost every year in terms of gaming performance. It's got a good value ratio as well. So if you're looking to pick up a laptop and you're not really pleased with the 5080 or the 5090 announcements, or just the RTX 5000 series in general, I know I am not, make sure you don't skip the Legion 7i. And seeing that it's going to be end of generation or end of life pretty soon, you're going to see some fantastic sales running on the Legion series. So if you can snag yourself a Legion 7i or even a light Legion 9i, if you're more budget oriented, even a Legion Slim 5 or a 5i is going to be a fantastic machine for getting all of your gaming done while maintaining a good value to budget ratio. So do not skip these laptops here. Overall, I'm very, very pleased with what this laptop can do, and of course with that 14900HX in here, 24 cores and 32 threads, it's got all of the power here that you can throw at to do everything else that you potentially could with this particular laptop: gaming, graphics, editing, programming, coding, of course, development. LLMs even can be run on this machine here. So with all of that said, I think we'll wrap up this review here. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you did, please click the like button. Please click subscribe and click that notification bell so you're the first to know when there's new content available here. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.